Echoes from Afghanistan is a film about 5 United States Marines that created an unbreakable bond, a healing bond. While deployed in Afghanistan, they saw 20 of their brothers killed, 160 wounded, and as of today, approximately 27 have taken their lives by suicide. They learned that they needed to rely on each other during their transition stateside. These men suffer from symptoms of post-traumatic stress and the effects of prolonged exposure to trauma during combat, poor physical health, chronic pain, and guilt, just to name a few. Watch, listen, and learn about these men, these war dogs from 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, who challenged their battalion motto, which is, ready for anything, count on nothing, and found that during some of their most difficult life experiences, they were undoubtedly ready for anything, but they could unquestionably count on each other.
I was like, all right, I like sports, I'm gonna do this. So I figured out what I liked, then I figured out how to do it, and then, you keep going from there. But the biggest thing is just being able to come home and redefining yourself other than just, I was a Marine, I fought in this war. That's not, your life doesn't end there.
When something's wrong, I want to be a part of it. I want to be part of the solution. When people are suffering, I want to be part of of consoling that. And that's just always been who I am.
There were kids that volunteered after 9/11 and said, we want to go. They're the less than 1% that served, that roger up and say, we want to go.
I lived in New York during 2001, and I lived, my town was like the second highest death rate for the Twin Towers. And so, I kind of, even back in the day, I kind of had that, oh, here we go, I'm going to go fight a war kind of feeling. It's always been in me. And and then I was like, I'm going to do this.
After vividly seeing planes fly into the World Trade Center and invisibly being attacked, that definitely put me in the direction of there are people out there that want to hurt me and Americans like me that appreciate what we have here in this country.
August 23rd, 2007, I was on the Yellow Footprints.
So I was in community college. Picked up, left Wednesday, told my mom, I was like, yeah, leave Friday. She's like, for what? Marine Corps. Started crying. She's like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm infantry, 03 open. I don't take anything else.
I love being challenged. So I knew that, who has the hardest boot camp? Marines do, 100%. So that kind of got me in the door of, yeah, that's what I want to do.
People ask me often, why did you join? I think that's the biggest question I get. I just think that, it's kind of something you're born with. I think it's an impetus you're born with, because I don't remember ever specifically having something that convinced me this is what I wanted to do. I grew up wanting to be one thing, it was like Ninja Turtle, and then it was Power Ranger, and then it was cop, and then it was Army guy, and it was always something to do with guns, but also a fighter for justice. And I think that's where it comes from.
A couple times my recruiter, she just kept do you know what you really want? Do you know what you're doing? I mean, you have at least enough skill set to do something that's going to give you something more outside of the Marine Corps. And I'll just be honest, I didn't have that forethought. I was in the now. I'm going to fight, and if I win, I win, and I'll continue. But if I lose, then I'm there with people that I know who fought with me, and that was, kind of a rudimentary way of thinking for your career and your life. But
so when my ASVAB came back and it was 98, my recruiter was like, oh, you can be data, you can be intelligence. I was like, infantry, sir. And he was like, are you sure? You could do anything else? And I was like, no, infantry, no infantry. He said, you don't have to. And I was like, I know I don't have to. None of this is have to. This is all voluntary. That's the point.
I figured, if I'm going to join the Marine Corps, why wouldn't I do infantry? My grandfather was infantry. I wanted the gun, I wanted to carry a machine gun, I wanted to be a badass.
A lot of my close buddies are all like, we're going machine gunners, and all my other buddies went 11s. And wasn't really good at math, so I couldn't be a 41. But machine guns were Sounds badass, you know. Accuracy by volume. Sounds good. So, went over there.
In SOY, we all kind of, me and the group of guys I came in with, we decided like, hey, what do you want to do? You have a choice: mortarman, assaultman, machine gunner, or regular rifleman. You know, it's like, I want to shoot the biggest gun. You know, it's always my thing is like, you know, machine guns, that's awesome. Biggest guns, most ammo. You know, it always appealed to me. I was always kind of that meat eater alpha male kind of guy. Like, just give me the biggest gun, I'll be happy.
Marines fighting, like that's what Marines did. They fought wars and they won wars, and I just told them, no, this is one-way ticket. I'm going to the infantry, and that's what it's going to be.
I like to say that the Marine Corps got to me first. I think I probably would have been drawn to them eventually because it's just the branch of people that are very proud, and myself and my cohorts are very proud people.
I had a SEAL used to say, I'd get angry at one of the Marines. He said, you got to remember, he volunteered. He wants to be here. He's a good American. He used to say he's a good American. I said, yeah, I guess you're right, sir. These kids are the Spartans of our generation.
It wasn't about like joining to do something that I might be able to do out here. It was about joining to be on the front lines. To be on the front lines for myself, but also like there's someone on the front lines right now. And the sooner I get over there, the sooner they can come home. You know? There's somebody that has to do this job, whether it's just, whether it's dirty, whether it's dangerous. The United States government is asking for people to do this job, to go out there and to interact with the people that don't like us very much. And I wanted to be one of those people that did.
It was different. My unit was the first unit in Afghan in Southern Helmand since like '01. So new units had like 1,000 guys. We had 35, and we didn't have air support. We didn't have much like any of that. So it was pretty wild west-ish.
Most of it's boring, and most of it's nonsense, and most of it's talking about what you're gonna do when you get home. And then, you know, if I were to add up all the exciting parts, it'd probably be about 20 minutes long. I'm being generous. And the exciting parts are, you know, I found an idea with my foot once, you know, and it happened to be very too deep, and I got lucky. I happened to be sitting down smoking a cigarette instead of standing up smoking a cigarette, and that was the specific time they decided to open a machine gun on my position, and the rounds were coming in above my head, but they missed me because I was sitting down. You know, like, cigarettes saved my life. There's so many stories like that.
And I just remember it was a huge explosion, and I just hear shrapnel, and I was from my head. I was like, dude, fuck, that was huge. Like, these people really want to kill us. And that's when I kind of started getting the feeling like, okay, this is reality starting to set in.
It didn't really hit me that this is for real. Like, I'm actually in another country where people don't like me. You know, kind of want, you know, they want to kill you for, you know, for pretty much. To our first convoy, that was the real awakening of kind of driving around and having a Mark 19, which is a automatic grenade launcher, shoots a 40 millimeter. Looking around and people kind of staring at you and videotaping you, you know, and people just kind of watching you, and you're like, they don't like us here, you know. They're kind of, it's just, that was when it really hit me.
Well, you know, you kind of think about it as you're gonna go do this great thing, and like it's gonna be, you know, what you see on movies, but most of the time it's just like in fighting intense boredom, you know, or like homesickness, or intense firefights and just horrible things. So it's a lot more mentally draining than you kind of expect it to be. You know it's going to be tough because you didn't get it until you get there, and that's a whole different world when you get there.
And then it wasn't until I got to my forward observation base, and I looked around, and I started getting that gut feeling like, oh, this isn't looking safe. And that's, you know, see banded tanks right next to us, literally right next to us. There's dish on top of the roof. There's bullet holes on, you know, all around.
It just seems like I randomly escaped with my life, and it had something to do with my training and something to do with luck. But I made it out because, you know, at certain times I was in the right place at the right time, or at certain things, certain Taliban weren't as efficient with their IEDs as other Taliban, and they happened to be the Taliban that were in charge of my life, or taking my life, so to speak.
I was frustrated that the Taliban didn't want to fight us, and that kind of carried into just being frustrated that we were there. Like, why can't we just go fight them? That wasn't our mission, and that pissed me off a lot. Like, and I think it pissed a lot of us off because we're walking around for hours and hours a day, and we're just sitting on landmines and getting blown up through these IEDs. It was anyone who was walking in that area, and if they hit a pressure switch, boom. So if it was a 5-year-old kid or an older man or one of us walking in that area.
I felt we were there for a reason. And there's a young girl, she stepped on an IED, and she was about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and her father wouldn't let her get treated because we were men. She ended up dying. But I can see her, like, don't even look at her. And, like, what the fuck, dude? Like, let her take her. Like, he's like, no, she'll be fine. I was like, dude. So he wouldn't let us see her because she was a female and she was at that age.
And we're willing. Like, we just want to. We want to be there for these people, and it's sad. It hurts your heart a lot because there's a perception that they have of Americans, and there's a perception that they have of what's happening in the war, and it's just skewed. I think it's skewed.
It's a different generation of Marines, and they saw a lot more than I did as a young Marine. When we went out with 3-4, we lost 9 Marines. I was devastated by that. That sense of loss, having to talk to the parents afterwards. I mean, you can't describe.
We had a lot of wounded, and a lot of wounded go back. And I think the wounded that went back took it harder than the people that made it all the way through. Because the biggest desire while you're over there and what you're trained to do is participate. And participate is in protect your friends and to watch over each other. You're trained to mind your sectors because your sector is covering his sector. And if you don't watch your sector, then he gets killed.
I think the fact that, the war didn't kill people, like you didn't die in war, but it's eating you up after, kind of even hurts more because you don't know how to do it, and you kind of do it by yourself, and you think if you just drink it, it'll be all right. So you just bottle it up.
At first, it was like, wow, that's crazy. Kind of think, oh man, I didn't really know the guy too much. First few guys, I wasn't really the closest with. I didn't really have a good gauge on what was really going on. I thought I was like, man, that's crazy. Just kind of okay.
I think the first couple suicides actually happened while I was still in, and my first reaction to it, I think a lot of guys that were still in were like, there go the first, there go the dudes that were weak, right? Like, they got out and they couldn't handle it and whatever. Like, that's not me. Like, I can't wait to get out because I have so much other shit that's going to be going on, whatever.
At the time I didn't realize it that much, probably because I was going through my own thing. But, you look back and, you see, from where the guy started to where they kind of, went after. It just, a lot of people took weird paths and, weird, people going to jail for fighting and the drinking picked up. But you kind of just assume it's just because you're Marines. But, the drinking got pretty bad. More normal drinking Marines, we drank, but, this drinking was a little out of control. And then, a lot of drug pops started popping up, and guys got hooked on drugs in the cities, and just stuff like that kind of came up. But you don't really think about it, you're it's just a scumbag Marine. But you don't link it to wait, maybe he's kind of having some issues, And then the command doesn't look at it like that. The command tells you it's because he was a shitty Marine, So you don't get, they kind of publicly denounce you too. They don't offer that much help,
These guys have had 2-3 deployments, and they get out, and that's 2-3 deployments in 4 years. And these guys aren't even re-enlisting; they're not extending, and I guess 6-8 months later, you just hear so and so took their life,
and then seeing it over and over and over. And I think there's a period last year maybe where it was almost every month, every 2 months on Facebook, guy killed himself, or hey, can you guys get a hold of this dude, or hey, does anyone talk to him, or hey, I got a message or something, is anyone near like Dallas, Texas, or is anyone in Kansas City, you know what I mean, kind of like feel out. And all of a sudden the next day it's like, yeah, he passed away, he hung himself or he shot himself, and you're just like, wow.
When you're the only person and you're in a town and you can't find someone who you can relate with that was in the military, you're alone. I 100% believe that. And those guys who did not have a support or didn't have any type of family or anyone that could relate with them that was in the military, they were just by themselves fighting whatever they were fighting inside.
Because as a young Marine, honestly, I could truthfully say this, as a young Marine, the suicide things, you're like, oh, another suicide brief, you know, great, kind of thing. And I really didn't understand. I really couldn't gauge it because, you know, being a young guy, kind of naive, I didn't really understand the importance of it. I was like, man, we don't have to worry about that. Like, whatever, it's all good. And then come back full circle. It's like, that might be one of the most important things we talk about.
You share so much with people, and then it's gone. You know, we spent 24 hours a day with each other, and you get rid of that. It's a huge void. It's a big void in your heart.
And obviously most infantry guys are kind of those alpha male sort of, you know, bravado, you know, cocky kind of dudes. So it's tough for saying, hey man, I have a problem, you know, or hey, I need some help. For some guys, that could honestly be the toughest thing they ever do in their life is ask for help. That could be the toughest thing. Hey, I got a gun, let's go, you know, I'm gonna get shot at, easy day. Ask for help, that's a tough one, you know what I mean? So I think trying to break that barrier down and be like, hey, it's all right, you know, it's not weakness, you just, you know what I mean? We all need some help sometimes.
And so, you know, eventually it happens to one of your really close friends, and that's like, well, devastating, of course. It's devastating. I think the shockwave is felt throughout the whole community, saying like, what makes me different? Everyone asks themselves, and I think a lot of people don't have an answer. What makes us different? What makes us different right now is that I talk to Hank, I talk to Paul, I talk to Del. We talk, and it's never about anything. It's rarely about anything serious. It's about the football games, it's about the fights. It's about, you know, dude, this chick last week, haha. You know, like, you know, it's like dude stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a camaraderie that can't be explained to the average, you know, civilian. I mean, it's just you suffer together, you know, and that builds continuity, that builds camaraderie, you know, can't be explained. And not getting ahead of us, but I think that's what a lot of these guys, when they get out, they miss, and they're disaffected. Because, you know, you've seen that internet meme or whatever, it says you guys all geared up with his weapon and everything, and it says the moment you realize you'll never be this awesome again, you know? It's a hard thing.
You go through different phases, like waking up in the middle of the night and patting your side, because I would have a 9mm on my right-hand side. So the whole deployment right here, I had a 9mm. On whether it was dismounted or mounted patrols, I always had my pistol.
I'm still like very jumpy. You know what I mean? Like some dickhead shot off a firework on New Year's Eve, and I took a combat knee. You're like, oh my god, and stuff like that. You know, that stuff. If you're not thinking, it'll catch up to you real quick. But you know,
I remember when I came back and like a car backfires, and then immediately I pivoted and it went to my hip. You know, and then it's just reactionary. It takes a while for your reactions to settle down. You're not necessarily nerves. It's just that's what you're trying to do. You hear something, you see something, and this is how you react. You know, your muscle memory kind of takes over.
I just remember looking around the mall like, what happens if this guy blows himself up over here? Or if these people start shitting around, and that's all I could do is sit there and think about what would happen, what would these people do? Would these people do anything? No, these people run this, what would this guy do? What would if that secondary over here? And that's all I was thinking about was where are they going to attack from? I'd say, because I never really got to see the enemy so much unless they're dead or a split second. Like I never really got to see them.
you know, I don't sleep great. I sleep all right. I wake up a lot. Any noise I hear wakes me up. But you know, I'm driving down the road and like, you know, IED. Oh, never mind. I'm in Minnesota. Stuff like that. But it's gotten a lot better ever since, you know, like football and stuff. But we'll see. I'll probably be that guy until I'm 60. Like, well, you got to expect the change of getting out you know, it's different. It doesn't matter if you were a combat vet. If you're in the military, come back to civilian life, it's different. You know, you can't talk to people the way you talk to other Marines. You can't, you know, you kind of have to manage your own time. The biggest thing when I got out was I realized is like, at least when you're in the Marine Corps, you know everyone has your back. You know, you could hate the guy next to you, but if it comes down to a bar fight, I'm swinging for him. But when you get out, everyone kind of, you know, it's civilian world. It's me. You know, like I love to, you know, talk to you, but I don't care what happens to you, kind of.
I think unfortunately we drill that Spartan mentality into each other, that we don't want to, you know, we don't want to ask for help. We don't want to be perceived as weak, you know, and I think that carries over, you know, to when they get out and they don't want to be, they feel stronger and more superior than the general populace as they are, so they don't want to be perceived as weak.
There's a lot to be done. There's a lot of support systems that can be put in place, but when it comes down to it, it comes down to is you and your buddies. You know what I mean? Like, are you going to let your buddy detach like that? If we all know what it looks like. If we see someone acting different, you know what I mean? Like, you talk to us for 3 years and all of a sudden you won't talk to us for 6 months. Like, you know something's up. So I think a lot of veterans have to put it on themselves to stop it. I talk to a Marine. Every single Marine is the same person, pretty much. You know, it doesn't matter how old you are. You can talk to a Vietnam guy, talk to an Iraq guy, World War II guy. We're all the same. So you know, it's easy to talk to a guy, a Marine, any military. But like, if you know, like, what am I supposed to say to my girlfriend? You know, like what do you tell? You don't want to tell them that. So it's hard to go to someone who doesn't get it, even if they like willing to like acknowledge, like, I have no idea, but I'll listen. Like, I still don't want to talk to you. You know what I mean? Just because I know you could judge me or something like that.
I don't trust people. I don't trust them. You can't. I'm hurt by too many people. It's like people are out there for themselves, and whether in business or anything like that, everyone wants to be number one. I want to be number one. I want to be in charge. With these guys, it's just more like, we will be in charge. We're a group, we're a team. All young men need it.
You know, and then you get the older guys like me, we're seen as mentors or leaders. So I don't want to, you know, I don't want to be perceived as weak, because I want people to be able to come to me. You know, I don't want these guys to think that I have any type of problem, you know.
If any of them call me like, I need you here, okay, like, how soon do you need me there? I'll be on the next flight. You need me there, I'll quit school if they need me. Like, you know what I mean? If they really truly need me.
Like, Paul was there because of me, and I was there because of Paul. And Hank was there because he found out because of me, because I was there for him. And became this, like, yeah, the mission overall, politically, overarchingly, like, the mission is kind of nebulous. Like, are we there to, like, liberate these people and bring them freedom and Bibles and blue jeans? I don't know. I don't know. But I do know that I'm here, and I do know you're here, and I do know you're here, and I've spent the last year and a half, 2 years with you, and I know your family, and I know who you love, and I know who loves you. And it would kill me more than a bullet to my chest to see you die here. It would kill me more than losing my leg to see you lose your leg or part of your brain here. And so everything that the whole reason I'm here is to make sure you go home. And the whole reason you're here is to make sure I go home. So it becomes a self-identifying thing.
You got to just expect that it's gonna be hard to transition, but it's only gonna get harder if you don't do anything about it. And I didn't do anything about it. I kind of just let it happen. But then once I started getting into stuff and putting myself out there and working towards being happy, I was, life happened and everything was back on track. But
27 years in the Marine Corps, you don't drink. I said, I don't drink anymore. I don't drink anymore because I don't want to self-medicate. And I don't want to be melancholy. And I don't want to get in my suds, for the term from back home, And I don't want to feel sorry for myself, And I just press. We just press on.
The first few, everyone, it was pretty brutal at first, and it's kind of sad, but, people just kind of come numb to it now. And, when I first started finding out, I'd detach even more, and, my mom and my girl, they didn't know what to say to me, because what can you say? So I would just, I would shut up. I wouldn't say anything. I barely even, like, if it happens, I barely tell my family. But then, and then I'm just in my head. But, like, when I was playing football, it's like, all right, this happened, but I can go on the field. Once I stepped in that locker room, that's the only thing that matters. It gave me a healthy, like, outlet of, like, how to deal with stuff.
There it is. Turn. That hip's got to turn. See how I land like that? That little flip. It's like flipping a freaking burger.
In between deployments, we started this up, I actually here the first time, and we just started doing McMap and extending McMap to live sparring, live grappling. And then we found out, I was looking around the internet, we found about tournaments for this and that. Let's go to this tournament, let's go to that tournament, see how we do against civilian guys, and it grew. And the good thing about the Marine Corps, there's so many martial artists that come in that have a background, or they find a background in martial arts in the Marine Corps, and it just kind of snowballed. I found guys, I always find coaches to help me. They come and go, but I always find coaches that know what I don't know. And I'm, of course, the boxing Muay Thai guy. So I've always found somebody to help me, or several guys to help me. And it's just snowballed. It's always been a battle for funding. It's always been a battle for support from units and stuff, but we just keep going on.
Through wrestling, and then coming here and fighting in the cage a couple of times, and then coaching other Marines, especially since they've been coming back from Afghanistan. It's been therapeutic for me.
We got this at the end of the day, and even if it's just an hour and a half, I know that guy loses himself. This is I've said it before to other people, but this is one of the best things in the world for him. I mean, I know he's been through some stuff, so him being able to take Marines down the hill to train or go to a tournament, and for me, the outlet, I guess, is getting them to do something, getting these kids out of the barracks and getting them excited about something. I think barracks life can be kind of depressing. You just worked your butt off 5 days in a row, and now you're just going to go sit in that hole and play video games for an entire weekend, and then you're right back to it. We got to teach these new Marines a skill, and then get them places and get them excited about something. Get them excited about winning medals on the weekends.
Being out of the Marine Corps is tough. It's a different environment and it's different expectations. So there's a lot of reasons why I stayed in bed instead of being out, and that became a habit, a bad habit. And I began to feel much less like fulfilled in life and much less purposeful, for sure. Eventually, I found that hiking would give me this sense of satisfaction. And initially I didn't have hiking boots, so I had my old combat boots, so I'd wear those. Put on the old boots and put on the old backpack and off I'd go. And it was like, this call back to what I had recognized as familiar, and what is familiar is comforting. And so I engaged upon this familiar activity of hiking and walking and carrying heavy things. Like, I'm out there around the clouds and there's no one here to listen and there's no judgment, and we climbed to the top of a mountain. I would just be like, man, this guy did this and this happened to me and this is funny about this, and that's what it is, and that's just fact. And not talking to, you're not a therapist, I'm not talking just to talk. We're just hiking and just starting conversation. That felt really good.
Nowadays, in Afghanistan, I really liked. I actually carried a trauma pack in my with all my rounds and my water and stuff. I carry a trauma kit. Okay. Because I took training. I took the combat lifesavers course and all that stuff. So I gotta carry a little trauma kit and a little sewing kit and stuff in there. And whenever someone would get hit, I'd drop my machine gun, drop my round, and then I'd go see what the problem was. Right. And then so I wanted to be, kind of wanted to be fired beforehand. I had to do this emergency stuff, and I was like, man, I didn't get to pull the trigger a whole lot, especially towards the middle and end. So I started doing a lot of the trauma assessments and things like that. From IEDs were still everywhere. So I kind of got used to seeing that stuff, and I was like, I kind of like emergency medicine. Yeah. So that's why I'm now towards the end of my schooling for my paramedics, my AA in paramedicine. I want to continue doing that. I want to maybe go back overseas as a contractor medic, get on a flight out there or flight crew.
Because everyone almost kind of follows the same line when it comes to it. The first 3 to 4 months, maybe it's a honeymoon kind of phase where it's like, I can do whatever I want. Let's go, drink or smoke, do whatever you want because you've been told what to do for the last 4 years. It's time to break away, you know what I mean? It's like when you leave the house the first time, everything's great, and you're like, oh man, bills suck, So I think everyone kind of went through that phase of like, dude, this is great. I love it. I'm partying. I'm having a great time. I'm growing out my hair. Sonny, being a hippie. Doing whatever he wants to do. And then all of a sudden the reality hits. And I think that's where people get in a really tough time is that point where it's like, okay, the fun's over. Now I got to kind of sit down. Wow, I don't like school. I can't really relate to people around me. I miss the structure. A lot of things I hear is about people missing the structure of the military. Not necessarily being told what to do, but they like having, it gives them a purpose. It's purposeful, They grow, they thrive in that kind of environment. I was really happy when Hank picked up football. Sonny's doing his thing, Jimmy's a cop, Paul's doing his, being a paramedic and everything. Everyone's kind of finding their niche, and it's keeping it busy, and it's keeping it focused, like a goal, like I must do this. I think some people just get lost. And they don't know what to do. They're just kind of sitting around.
And eventually became backpacking, and eventually became like a big pack, and pack your own food, your own rations, and cook your own food, and be out there in the land for 4 or 5 days at a time, and put on this many miles, and okay, we got to worry about like the defense when we go to sleep, let's set up a good perimeter and make sure the bears don't come. If the bears do come, of course, I have my pistol because I have to, I'm a Marine, okay? I sleep with a pistol in my bed, that's what we do. The military does a lot to define and give you purpose. And when you come out of it, you don't have that purpose given to you. You are expected to derive it for yourself. And I think that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do.
Yeah, and I've had kids call me back. They call me for references all the time and stuff. And they say, like, when they're in college, they're like, I don't identify with anybody here. These kids don't know. They don't understand. And it's difficult for them. So I try, and that's what we're talking about here with this team is, this is my respite to keep me going. It keeps me out of my own head. You know what I mean? It's the shark theory. You keep swimming so you won't sink to the bottom.
It's huge, you have to go find something to put yourself in, dedicate yourself, whether it's just like lifting or I got buddies that are in bands now, you have to find something that'll keep you going, and you can't just expect, you can't just keep dwelling on everything that happens. So, you get up to 15 suicides in 3 years, what do you do?
We have this idealistic view of where we should be as a Marine Corps, and I think that's what makes us such a fine fighting force. However, we all know that we're human, and we can't really attain that. And then from there, leaving the Marine Corps, it's a hard transition. It was one of the hardest transitions I've ever been through because of the camaraderie, the hardship, and I say that in a positive way. It causes you to look at things a certain way. So
I have recurring dreams. I have combat dreams. We all do, and I never wake up in a cold sweat, confused and scared, because I have dreams about them and us there, and I'm safe. And I wake up and I feel safe, and I wake up and I feel like nostalgic. They were the best times of our lives. They were the most human we've ever been. And the reason I'm here is because of Hank, because of Paul, because of Jimmy, because of Del. Those are the men that have saved my life and will continue to save my life for the rest of my life. And I hope sincerely that I'll be the same for them.
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. If we need to stay in contact or anything like that, I would have killed myself. For sure. That's a fact.
I've lost a lot of good friends, and it breaks my heart. It does. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about them, and that's the truth.
It's painful to watch such great men and such in such, I don't know, tragic moments. It's over.
My family's great support. My friends here, great. But without them, there'd be that darkness, that empty spot. Well, people in AA would talk about there's that empty spot they have that only alcohol could fill. Well, if I was an alcoholic, they'd be my booze. I wouldn't be able to survive without them. I can't. So
the men that will that will do anything for anyone that they love, and vice versa. They're the men that are, they love people more than most people love people.
Hi, this is Michael Pritchard for Warrior Research Foundation. If the film that you just watched touched you as much as it has touched me and my family, you'll know that the important thing that we can do now is to help encourage those veterans, support those veterans financially, emotionally, and spiritually in a way that brings them to the community unity that they have so nobly earned. Each and every one of us in our own way can do everything we can to support the veteran returning home from war, combat, and the stressors that cause PTSD. We ask you to be that person who's a person of support and respect for the efforts that they have given us. When we see that PTSD and we hear their stories and the grief and the sorrows, it can only embolden all of us in our nation to be more persevering in supporting their efforts to come home to heal and to be well with their families.